Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are back at it, ready to unpack another layer of the world for you. Today we are heading into the classroom, but probably not the classroom you remember.
Definitely not the classroom I remember, no.
We're looking at that frantic, messy, and honestly pretty exciting intersection where creativity crashes right into technology.
Yeah.
Our map for today is issue number 48 of Transformations. It's a newsletter from the JESCO EdTech department, just dropped in January 2026.
And Transformations is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that title because, looking at this material, we aren't just seeing a software update.
No.
We're looking at a fundamental shift in how students communicate.
Yeah, and I want to get ahead of something right away.
Right.
When I say EdTech, I feel like a lot of people just instinctively glaze over.
Oh, completely. They picture a digital gradebook or something.
Right. Or maybe a kid staring zombie-like at a tablet playing a math game.
Or just, word processing, typing an essay on a screen instead of writing it by hand. That's usually the extent of it for most people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this update, specifically about Adobe Express, is something else entirely. We're not talking about making pretty slides. We are talking about putting a whole production studio in a backpack.
Right. We're seeing tools that let, fourth graders produce professional-grade audio and visual content?
Which is wild.
That is the mission for this deep dive, really. We want to understand how these web-based creative apps are evolving.
Okay.
They're moving from being these little isolated tools, where you make a flyer, to these comprehensive platforms for storytelling.
We're to talk podcasting, a digital gallery.
And the why behind it all. Why does a student even need to be a podcaster?
So here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll start with the headline feature, which is the integration of Adobe Podcast directly into Express. We'll look at the tech, but also this so what. Then we're going to pivot to the visual side and discuss this gallery feature. It sounds simple, but I have a feeling you're going to tell me it's deeper than it looks.
It definitely is, yeah.
And finally, we'll wrap up with some practical stuff, the interface, and a massive opportunity coming up in late February for anyone who wants to actually learn this stuff hands-on.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, let's get into the meat of it. The newsletter leads with this. Adobe Podcast is now built directly into the Adobe Express platform.
Right.
Now, help me understand the magnitude of this. Because to the uninitiated, it just sounds like two apps became one app. Who cares?
Well, to understand why this matters, you have to understand the nightmare that was the old workflow.
Okay.
Let's say you're a teacher and you want your students to create a podcast about, I don't know, the American Revolution.
Yeah, I'm with you.
In the past, the student opens an audio recorder app to capture their voice. Then they probably realize the file format's wrong, so they have to convert it. Then they open an editing tool, maybe something complex like Audacity or GarageBand, which has a really steep learning curve.
And then they need cover art.
Exactly. So they open a graphic design tool, then they have to export the image, export the audio, try to mash it all together in a final platform.
I am exhausted just listening to that.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get a room full of 10-year-olds to do this in a 45-minute period.
Exactly. The cognitive load was entirely focused on managing the files and the software, not on the content.
Right.
The students spent 90% of their time troubleshooting and maybe 10% actually talking about history.
So this update just completely flips that ratio.
Completely. It's an all-in-one editor now. Imagine a single screen. On the left, you have your audio timeline where you're recording your voice.
Okay.
On the right, you have your canvas where you're dragging and dropping your cover art, adding text, whatever. It's all happening in the same browser tab.
That streamlines things, sure. But is it just about convenience? Because making things easier doesn't always make the learning better.
That's a great point.
Sometimes the struggle is the point.
Yeah. In this case, removing the friction allows you to focus on the storytelling. But there are technically specific features here that go beyond just convenience.
Okay, like what?
There are three big ones: automatic transcription, automatic speech enhancement, and guest recording.
Let's break those down. Automatic transcription. I use this all the time on my phone because I hate listening to voicemails.
Right.
But in a classroom, why is that a headline feature?
Well, think about literacy. When a student records their voice and the tool immediately generates a text transcript right below it, you're creating a bridge.
A bridge between spoken and written language.
Exactly. So they can see what they said, and they can edit the audio by editing the text.
Oh, that's cool.
But think about a student who struggles with reading, or a student who needs to check their work. Seeing their own words appear magically as text reinforces vocabulary and sentence structure.
So it turns a speaking assignment into a reading assignment without them even realizing.
You got it.
Okay, I can see that. Now, the second one is the one that caught my eye. Automatic speech enhancement. The newsletter makes this sound like a magic wand.
It effectively is.
But play devil's advocate for a second here. Classrooms are noisy. You've got the HVAC humming, the kid next to you crumpling a bag of chips.
The hallway noise, yeah.
Does a software button really fix all of that?
It does, and that's why it's so transformative. We call it the cafeteria effect.
Okay.
If you stick a microphone in a classroom, the playback usually sounds terrible, it's echoey, it's distant, it's full of background fuzz.
And when you hear yourself on a recording like that, you just cringe. I mean, I cringe hearing myself anyway, but bad audio makes it so much worse.
It's worse than cringing. It's discouraging. If a student works hard on a script, records it, and the playback sounds amateurish and garbled.
They internalize that their work is low quality.
Yes, they think, I'm not good at this.
So the bad tech actually hurts their confidence.
Precisely. Automatic speech enhancement uses AI to strip out that background noise, balance the levels, and make the voice sound like it was recorded in a studio.
So it's basically an Instagram filter for your voice.
In a way, yeah, but think about the psychological impact. A student puts on headphones, hits play, and hears a crisp, professional-sounding voice. Their voice. Suddenly, they feel like a creator. They feel like what they have to say is important enough to be broadcast. It validates their voice.
That's a really interesting angle. It's not just about audio quality. It's about the student's self-perception.
Exactly. And then the third piece, guest recording, that just opens up the world. It allows for remote interviews.
So I can interview my grandma in Florida for my history project.
Right. Or a local business owner or a pen pal in another country. It breaks down the walls of the classroom.
So you're not just talking into a void.
No, you're having the dialogue.
Okay, so we have the tools. We've got the transcription, the Magic Studio sound, the interviews.
Yeah.
But I want to push on the so what. The expert in you must look this and ask, does this actually make kids smarter? Or are we just making them better content creators?
That is the pivotal question. And the material from Jeffco explicitly links these tools to educational outcomes.
Like what?
They list things like building voice and communication skills and deepening comprehension.
Deepening comprehension is a phrase I hear a lot. Unpack that for me.
Right.
How does holding a microphone deepen my comprehension of, say, biology?
It comes down to synthesis. If I give you a worksheet and ask you to define mitosis, you can probably copy a sentence from a textbook and get it right.
Oh, yeah. I did that plenty of times.
You don't really have to understand it. You just have to transcribe it.
Yeah.
But if I ask you to record a 2-minute podcast episode explaining mitosis to a 5-year-old,
You can't fake that.
you can't fake that. You have to internalize the concept, break it down into natural language, and speak it with the right emphasis. You have to actually understand it to explain it verbally.
That makes sense.
That is where the deep comprehension happens.
It forces you to process the information, not just repeat it. The newsletter also mentions building empathy through storytelling. That feels a bit soft. How does technology build empathy?
Well, audio is such an intimate medium. Think about the podcasts you listen to. You feel like you know the host. You hear the breath, the pause, the crack in their voice. When students use these tools to tell stories, maybe interviewing a veteran or sharing a personal struggle, the listener connects emotionally in a way that text on a page just rarely achieves.
It humanizes the subject.
It creates a connection. And in a world that is, increasingly digital and disconnected, teaching students how to use technology to create human connection, that's a vital skill.
I also want to touch on the language aspect. The newsletter mentions building fluency. This seems huge for students learning English as a second language.
It's massive. Imagine you're learning a new language. Speaking up in front of 30 peers is terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
You're afraid of making a mistake, of your accent, of using the wrong word.
So you stay quiet.
You stay quiet. But with these tools, you can go into a quiet corner, record yourself, listen back, delete it, record it again.
And just keep practicing.
Right. It creates a safe loop for failure and improvement.
And the speech enhancement probably helps there too, I bet.
It does. It lets you hear your pronunciation clearly without the distraction of background noise. It empowers the learner to take risks with language.
So we've established that audio is powerful, but Adobe Express is visual too.
Right.
And the newsletter highlights this gallery feature. Now, they call it a virtual bulletin board. My immediate reaction is, boring.
Yeah.
We've had bulletin boards for 100 years. Why is a digital one better?
It's about audience and permanence. Think about that physical bulletin board. Who sees it?
The people in the room? And maybe the janitor.
Right. And who decides what goes on it?
Usually the teacher picks the best ones, the A-plus papers.
Exactly. It's exclusive, it's limited by space, and it's temporary. The gallery feature in Express democratizes that. It allows every student to post their work to a shared digital space that the whole class, or even parents, can view.
But does putting it on a screen actually change how the student works?
Absolutely. It's what we call the audience effect.
Okay.
If I know I'm writing a paper that only my teacher will see, I put in enough effort to get the grade I want. But if I know my friends, my peers, the whole class are going to see this image in the gallery.
I'm going to polish it.
Mm-hmm.
I care about how I look to my peers.
It leverages that desire for social standing, yes, but it also fosters inspiration.
What do you mean?
In a siloed classroom, I never see your work. I don't know how you solve the problem. In a gallery, I can scroll through 30 different approaches to the same assignment.
Oh, interesting.
I might see your design and think, whoa, I didn't know we could use those colors, or I didn't know we could structure the story that way.
So the students end up teaching each other just by sharing their work.
Shared learning is the term they use in the newsletter, and it's spot on. It moves the teacher from being the sole source of knowledge to being a facilitator of a community.
The newsletter lists some specific uses for this.
Mm-hmm.
One was using image prompts for creative writing.
Which is a classic technique, but it's totally supercharged here. The teacher could drop a surreal, maybe an AI-generated image into the gallery.
Right.
And just say, everyone write a paragraph about what is happening here.
Or the reverse, I guess.
Yeah.
Students write a story and then have to create the visuals for it.
Exactly. They also mentioned vocabulary building.
How does that work?
Visual vocabulary is incredibly strong. If you're learning the word ephemeral and you have to create an image that represents ephemeral and post it to the gallery,
that word is going to stick in your brain.
Way better than if you just wrote the definition on a flashcard.
And I imagine for the teacher, being able to see everyone's work in one grid view is a total lifesaver.
It's a dashboard for the classroom. Instead of opening 30 individual files, you just scan the gallery. You can instantly see who's on track, who's confused, who hasn't started.
It speeds up the feedback loop.
Immensely.
Okay, let's pivot to the how. We've got the audio, we've got the gallery. But the newsletter also mentions a refreshed user interface. Now, as someone who uses software, whenever I hear refreshed interface, I panic.
Yeah.
It usually means we move the button you use every day.
It's a double-edged sword for sure. The source acknowledges that the tools have been reorganized.
And that creates a temporary dip in productivity.
Right. Everyone has to relearn the muscle memory.
Where did the crop tool go?
Yeah.
Becomes the most asked question in the room.
Exactly. But the goal of this reorganization, according to the update, is to simplify that all-in-one experience we talked about. They are trying to make the video, audio, and design tools feel like one cohesive system, not 3 separate apps glued together.
So it's short-term pain for long-term gain.
That's the hope. And it signals that the tool is alive. It's not static. It's evolving based on how people are using it.
Speaking of evolving and learning, let's say there's a teacher listening to this, or an administrator, and they're thinking, this sounds great, but I have no idea how to actually teach this.
Right.
You can't just drop this software on a teacher's desk and walk away.
No, that is a recipe for disaster. You need training. And the Jeffco Ed Tech Department seems to know that because the newsletter ends with a massive call to action.
The Adobe Creativity Institute.
All right.
This is happening on Saturday, February 21st, 2026. And I have to point out, it's a Saturday from 8:00 a.m. to 3:30 p.m.
That is a serious commitment.
It is. But they're hosting it at the Jesco School's Ed Center. Why is an event like this so critical? Why not just watch a YouTube tutorial?
Because a YouTube tutorial teaches you which buttons to push.
Okay.
An institute like this teaches you how to teach with the tool. There is a huge difference.
Break that down for me.
Knowing how to add a fade-out effect to audio is a technical skill. Knowing how to design a lesson plan where students interview community members to build empathy, that's a pedagogical skill.
I see.
The Institute is where you bridge that gap. It's where educators come together to discuss the why and the how, not just the what.
It's also about confidence, right? If I'm going to stand in front of 30 fifth graders and tell them to open this app, I need to know it better than they do.
Or at least be comfortable failing in front of them.
Yeah, that too.
Exactly. You need that hands-on sandbox time. The newsletter explicitly says claim your spot, which implies space is limited.
So if you want to move beyond using technology as a digital typewriter,
this is the room you need to be in.
So we have covered a lot of ground here. We've gone from the frustration of that old, disjointed workflow to this new all-in-one podcasting studio.
A sleek one at that.
We've talked about how good audio builds confidence and literacy. We've looked at the gallery as a space for community, not just display.
It really is a comprehensive ecosystem.
But I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier. We talked about how this tool makes student work look and sound professional. The AI cleans up the voice. The templates make the design look slick.
It lowers the barrier to entry, yes.
But I want to ask a harder question. If the tool is doing the polishing, if the AI is fixing the ums and ahs, and the templates are handling the color theory, what are we actually grading?
That is the provocative thought for the day.
I mean, seriously, if a student turns in a podcast that sounds like NPR, but the computer did 50% of the heavy lifting on the production side, do we need to change our rubric?
We absolutely do. In the past, we might have given points for clarity of audio or neatness of design.
Sure.
Those are now baseline features provided by the tool.
So neatness is no longer a skill, it's a setting.
Correct. So the value shifts. We have to stop grading the polish because the polish is cheap.
So we have to start grading the thinking.
The thinking, the content, the storytelling structure, the uniqueness of the perspective.
The soul of the project.
The soul of the project. In a world where AI can generate a perfect-looking artifact, the human element, the actual creative choice, becomes the only thing worth measuring.
That is both terrifying and liberating. It forces us to be better teachers, I think.
It does.
We have to look past the glossy surface.
It raises the bar. We are moving from demonstrating knowledge to producing professional artifacts, and that requires a higher level of critical thinking from everyone involved.
Well, on that note, I think we have given everyone plenty to chew on. This has been a look at issue #48 of Transformations from January 2026.
A fascinating glimpse into the future of the classroom.
If you're in Jeffco, check out that update. Maybe sign up for that institute on February 21st if there are still spots. And for everyone else, think about how you're using these tools. Are you just consuming or are you creating?
And are you focusing on the polish or the story?
Exactly. Thank you all for listening. We will catch you on the next deep dive.